Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Board of Supervisors regular meeting, May 21st, 2013. Can we all rise and pledge allegiance to the flag led by Supervisor Barrios?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ready, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Supervisor Barrios. Can I have a motion for acknowledgement of certificate of posting?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. We have one presentation this morning for emergency medical services. Supervisor Rivas.
Do we have to have a motion for that?
I think that would probably be appropriate.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none.
Okay, so this morning our board is, we're here to proclaim Emergency Medical Services Week between the weeks of May 19th through the 25th, which is this week. And in honoring and proclaiming this emergency, the Medical Services Week, the system, it consists of emergency, the physicians, emergency, the nurses, first responders, the medical EMTs, emergency medical technicians, the paramedics, our firefighters, educators, administrators, and many others. And so it is very appropriate that we recognize the value and the accomplishments of those EMS, the providers and personnels that we have here in San Benito County. And we could think of so many, we could think of the tragic events that happen throughout, not only here in San Benito County, but throughout the country. And we owe these people so much for what they give and sacrifice on behalf of their own personal lives. When you look at their schedules, it's incredible. A lot of them work incredible schedules. A firefighter works a 24-hour shift. Sometimes they work a 48-hour shift. EMTs, a lot of these people spend a lot of time away from their families, and in doing so, they help others, and they give everything to help others. We look at the events that are happening in Oklahoma now. I was watching the news this morning, and there was firefighters, EMTs. We had some peace officers out there because, as we all know, they had that, it was a tornado, I believe, and it's just everything is in mass ruin over there. And so with that, I hope that we can give a great round of applause to all those that serve here in San Benito County for everything that they do. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, and I would like to personally thank the board for this proclamation and for designating May 22nd, Wednesday, as EMS for Children Day. In recognition of EMS for Children Day, American Medical Response, Hollister Fire, and the EMS agency will be teaching hands-only CPR at the Farmers Market from 3 to 7 p.m. The theme for 2013 is EMS, One Mission, One Team. This statement was chosen to reflect the fact that our EMS providers are a dedicated team of professionals who selflessly save lives and limit suffering on a daily basis. I would like to take a few minutes to recognize some of our 2013 EMS heroes whose actions and teamwork made a difference for 7 of our local citizens. These heroes will be honored at a reception and certificate presentation to be held at the Hollister Fire Station directly following this meeting. In the interest of time and space and the number of heroes that we have to recognize today, I would like the heroes to stand at their seats or raise their hands when I call their names, and please remain standing. The first team of EMS heroes responded to a 46-year-old male who was choking. Santa Cruz Regional Public Safety Dispatcher Melody McDonald, County Fire Apparatus Engineer Michael Reimer, and firefighter Jody Gear, American Medical Response, Brianna Lee, paramedic, and EMT, Jimmy Holguin. Hazel Hawkins, clerk, Michelle Quebec, RN Steve Gallion, and Trish Rivera, and Dr. Paul Gensler. The second EMS team responded to a 78-year-old female who had fallen and was unable to get out. And we are presenting a special EMS Citizen Award to Mr. Elias Espinoza of Jóvenes Antaños. Thank you, sir. This gentleman immediately activated 911 when he realized that our patient had not picked up her food from the previous delivery, and his actions saved this woman's life. The dispatcher was Dave Sumner, Hollister Fire Captain Jeff Granucci, Engineer Sean Olgan, and firefighter Vince Grewal. American Medical Response paramedic Mike Badano, and EMT Chris White. And Hazel Hawkins, we had ER Tech Kelsey Jeffries, Nurse Carolyn Yakovone, and Dr. Kathy Corby. Our third team responded to a 46-year-old male victim of an auto versus, I'm sorry, that was a 20-year-old male auto versus pedestrian. Santa Cruz Regional Dispatcher Melanie Sherwood, County Fire Apparatus Engineer Armando Michalski, and firefighter Sammy Brazil, American Medical Response Paramedic Jared Utzig, and EMT Jennifer Guerrero, CalStar Flight Crew Michelle Starbuck, Ashley Johnson, and Paul Towell. The fourth team is being recognized for saving the lives of 3 children who had been left in their home when a fire broke out. 2 Hollister Police Department officers, Carlos Rodriguez and David Anderson, noticed the smoke and took immediate action, which not only saved the young children, but prevented others from loss of life and property. 2 dispatchers were involved in this one, Jim Riccabana and Jody Bowles, County Fire Apparatus Engineer Josh Silvera, and firefighter Jody Gear, Hollister Fire Captain, now Chief, Mike O'Connor, Engineer Wayne Thomas, Engineer Phil Rossi, Captain Kenny Mellon, Engineer Sean Olgin, and firefighter Vince Grewal. And our last team of EMS heroes responded to a 55-year-old male who was choking. Dispatcher Mike Krakowiak, got it, Hollister Fire Captain Tim Schneider, Engineer Jesse Vallejo, and firefighter Bill Olgin, American Medical Response Mike Badano, and EMT Carlos Ramirez, and Hazel Hawkins clerk Michelle Quebec, RNs Maria Hernandez and Christy Piccoli, and Dr. Sanel Gilbert. On behalf of the San Benito County Emergency Medical Services Agency, I'd like to thank all these heroes and all the men and women of the EMS system that serve us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and for providing exceptional care to our community. Congratulations.
Thank you, Ms. Marlowe. And thank you for all the public safety folks that are here today, and we're really honored with your presence. Thank you. We'll move on to the next item, public comment. This is for items not on our agenda this morning, and if you could keep your comments to 3 minutes or less, we'd appreciate that.
First speaker is Marvin Jones.
Got an extra speaker here. Mr. Chairman, Board, thank you for the opportunity. Saw recently where the atmospheric carbon dioxide content reached 400 parts per million for the first time. Scripps Institute's been measuring carbon dioxide off the top of Mauna Loa for 50, 60 years. It oscillates high in the winter, spring, low in the fall, just from natural cyclical. But it's never been 400 parts per million. It reached it this past spring. The Russians had got their Vostok ice core data that goes back 420,000 years, and it has carbon dioxide temperature measurements for that period of time. 420,000 years, it's never been 400 parts per million. The Vostok ice core data also shows that temperature goes up, carbon dioxide goes up. Temperature reaches a peak, starts down, carbon dioxide still goes up for another 600 or 800 years after temperature starts to fall. Reach peak in the ice age, temperature start rising, carbon dioxide goes down for another 600 or 800 years. So actually carbon dioxide is a trailing indicator of not a leading indicator of global temperature. What's next? Global temperature been constant for about 2 decades now, relatively short period of time, but global temperature has not changed for almost 2 decades. Are we getting to a beginning of a decrease? Don't know. Another 20, 30 years we'll find out. The Argo Buoy project, where they've been measuring the temperatures of the ocean, it's only been going on for 10 years. I think they're up to about 3,000, 3,500 buoys now. And the global warming model says that the ocean should warm as well. Again, it's only been about 10 years, and if there is a difference, the oceans are cooling. Too soon to say. Need another 10, 20 years. Just information. I don't know what you can do with it. But again, I'm one of the carbon dioxide global warming skeptics, and that there's enough data out there that says that maybe Al Gore wasn't correct. The theories on global warming that we've been working for, litigation and all, for the last 15, 20 years, made their predictions. Global temperature right now is right at the lower confidence limit of the prediction that was made 15, 20 years ago, whenever it was made. Again, in 10 years, 15 years, we might find out whether the Earth is cooling, the Earth is continuing to warm. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. Any other public comments?
Marty Richmond.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Marty Richmond from Hollister. Monday will mark Memorial Day in the United States, a national holiday to honor those who died serving the nation. Memorial Day used to be called Decoration Day because they used to go out and decorate the gravestones. I know many of you know the history of that. So we are here today, and I'm here with you on many Tuesdays as free people, often in disagreement with each other, coming up here and working out our problems. And we are here because many other people are not here. We have not always sold their lives dearly. We've made some terrible errors, and we've sold their lives cheaply. But nonetheless, in the faith of the nation, those people served our nation, and they deserve some respect. So I hope you'll all come out on Memorial Day and say a prayer for those who are not with us any longer. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Okay, anyone else who would like to address the board at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on to department head announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I'd like to request that we remove item 21 and 22 from our consent agenda and continue that to June 4th, 2013.
Okay.
I also have a couple of department heads. We have Steve Wittrey, our department head for our Public Works Department, has a department head announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Just a quick announcement letting you know that we are doing that demonstration project down on New Andrea Road. It's beginning actually today. We have our vendor down there for that machine that will be essentially ripping the road apart this morning. That the demonstration from the vendor will cease today, but our crews will use that machine for the next 2 or 3 days. Actually, I'll be heading down on Thursday if any of the board members wanted to see that machine in action. Also, we're videoing it so that we can get a copy of that to the board if they're interested in seeing how that machine may work. I just wanted to let you know that that's going on as we had planned. And if you hear some calls, Supervisor Munzer from South County Action, that's what's going on. So thank you.
You know, can I ask a question? And, you know, I don't know if I could make it down there on Thursday. I think I have a couple of meetings already booked. But how long is that? I don't know if you call it a road improvement, but that.
You can call it a road improvement.
But how long is it supposed to last? Or do you have to run a grader over it every 3 months or 4 months, or how does that work?
The final product that we're going to be completing down there, or the actual work that's occurring down there. So the work that's occurring down there, let me lay that out a little bit, is we're demoing this machine. We expect that demonstration to happen today, Wednesday, and Thursday. The grader is down there right now and will reshape the road, and we'll be doing a chip seal overcoat. We're planning on that the first part of next month. So down there in that particular section of the road, we anticipate about a 2-week process. The demonstration that we have that unit for, we have it for about a month. So as the success of that or failure of that is determined, we may use it in different areas of the county. That we're going to run up against a little problem with funding unless we have the crossing the fiscal year. So into next fiscal year, if that's something that we recommend to the board to purchase, we would be moving those kinds of projects closer to the urban area, to your district and to Supervisor Barrios' district primarily.
Okay. And are you planning on putting some capital funds towards the purchasing of the equipment?
If the test is successful, yes, we would.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the plan, yes.
I do want to take a look at that before probably the budget period anyway.
Like I said, I can provide a video to the public and to the board. We are, like I said, we're shooting a video today, and we'll be shooting some video so that
Okay.
obviously it's down there, and it's about 3-hour round trip. So we wanted to make it is a little bit of a strain for folks who try to eke out 3 hours of time to go down there and see it. So we will take a video of it, and you will be able to see it in action, and then the finished product will be shown as well. So.
Supervisor
Chair.
Munzer?
Oh,
Steve, so once the road is done, the section of road is done, what's the life expectancy of the finished product?
We're hoping to get down there. It's going to be a little bit difficult because the road down there experiences very few vehicle traffic, and twice a year it has very heavy ranch traffic. We are hoping to have a life expectancy of this portion of the road for a decade or so. What we're looking at is historically that road has not seen any work of any major nature other than pothole repair for, I believe, since the 1970s. So we are hoping that it will last for quite a while. That's one of the things we'll be looking how it wears going into the future for what kind of top coat we apply to it. Right now, like I say, at that location, we're applying a chip seal to the top of it. It may be a different application as it gets closer to an urban area. One of the other roads that we want to look at very closely is Riverside Road, which has a lot of difficulty with pop-outs and some issues there. That may be a different surface coating, depending on how the chip seal works in South County.
And do you know what time you're going down on Thursday?
I'm trying to do it somewhere between 11-ish or so, and then to get down there towards the 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock time frame.
Okay.
Okay, Supervisor Barrios, did you have anything?
well, I just, you wanted to make that available to the public. Will we be doing it you're going to have it on the agenda as a presentation?
What I could do is the video will be in digital format. We could put it on a CD or a DVD and burn a copy for
Okay.
that. And if the public wanted to see it, we could make it available if they wanted to see it.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Steve.
We have another announcement. We have Lisa Reinheimer. She's our Director of COG with an announcement.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Chair. Lisa Reinheimer, San Benito COG. And I'm here today to ask that everybody fill out a survey. It's online, and it's ambag.metroquest.com, of course, www. And it's for everybody to take. It looks at the next 25 years, and it'll only take you about 3 to 5 minutes. So in terms of a public survey, that's really quick. It's open until the end of June, and what we're looking for is the public and everybody's preferences in terms of the types of housing, the kinds of housing that will be here in the Monterey Bay region, but more specifically, I'm looking for San Benito County, so that types of houses, whether it's condos, apartment buildings, townhouses, single-family types of houses, and what types of transportation would be needed to support that type of housing, whether it's new bicycle lanes, separated paths, more sidewalks, widening roads, more public transit, you name it. I want to know what folks want to see over the next 25 years. And we're trying to get as many responses as possible. So by the end of June, we're hoping for quite a few. We've been very unsuccessful in the past. So I would implore everybody to go to www.ambag.metroquest.com. Literally takes 3 to 5 minutes, and it'll be very valuable information for us. So I encourage everybody to do that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you.
That's all our announcements for today.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to board announcements. Any board, Supervisor Munzer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Supervisor Barrios and I attended a governance committee workshop with the management group, and they gave us an update on where the water districts are with their new West Hills water treatment plant and the upgrade to the less salt water treatment plant. And we asked them if they would come and provide a full update and presentation to the full board here. So I think we're looking at probably the 1st of July, having them come and give us a full update on where they are with both the less salt plant and the new West Hill water treatment plant. And then on a lighter, funner note, the Monterey Bay Unified Air Pollution Control District holds a coloring contest for all, and it's open to all the elementary schools in the Tri-County region. And I'm happy to say, and then they pick winners out of the different grade levels, and they make a yearly calendar. So there's 13 winners, because the overall winner is put on the cover of the calendar, and then each month a different drawing depicting how to improve the air is put on the calendar. And I'm happy to say that out of the 13 winners, 6 were from San Benito County this year, including the overall winner, Katie Soul of Sacred Heart School. She was our cover winner this year. So I'm really glad that we had a great representation from San Benito County.
Well, it helps when you're the chairman of the board.
No, past chair.
Did you do the judging yourself, Supervisor Munzer?
But I would have.
Supervisor Barrios?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I want to thank Senator Canella, who joined us last Friday and invited members of the community to just visit informally with him at Mars Hill. It was really nice to see representatives from Sacramento actually come down, and I know he's done this several times, and come in and just like I said, informally talk to us and give us an opportunity to ask questions. I believe that he's really done a lot in the effort of helping San Benito County in many areas. He talked about ERAF. He's still making a push for us to pass that legislation. And we talked about AB 109 and the efforts that are being made there, education that affects San Benito County and our children in San Benito County. So I want to thank him for doing that, and I think it was a great getting together with him and communicating our thoughts. The second thing is that I talked to a gentleman from San Benito County. He mentioned that the courthouse is moving right along, and he is a contractor. He has a business in San Benito County, and it made me really happy to know that he has been contracted along with other local contractors to provide services, employment efforts, whatever is needed at the courthouse that is being built by the state of California. And I know that this board made a great effort to make sure that local companies were asked to participate and to provide employees, and it's happening. So whoever was involved, I want to thank them. I know there were 2 supervisors that led that effort, and I know that as a whole we supported it. So it is happening, and they were very pleased to inform me that they have been included. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Great. Thank you, Supervisor Barros, for pointing that out, because for government jobs, oftentimes you need to have qualifications, and sometimes our local contractors and people that provide those services don't meet those qualifications, and we really made a point to try to bring everybody to at least have knowledge that, that's the process that we have to have for a government project like this. Friday, I was able to attend the coffee with Senator Cannell, and the county did do a very good job expressing our gratitude for the legislation that he's sponsoring to solve this ERAF issue that we've had for at least a dozen years or maybe longer. And that's really helped Samuel County meet, its revenue needs coming into this year. Also, I had the privilege of speaking, being part of a presentation for the San Benito Leadership Group on Friday, and we talked about oil of all things and what the county has done for the oil ordinance revision. And they had a geologist that spoke to the group, as well as somebody from the Sierra Club, and that was a very informative session. I continue to learn as I go along on this very important issue. And then Saturday, one of the great things about being a county supervisor, you get to go to all sorts of fundraisers and events, and I was able to make the CASA event, and Supervisor Barrios was able to make it as well, and she won a basket. And that basket's come in handy when we decide who goes to RCRC in September. We kind of donate a basket every year from Samuel County to the chairperson's county for their fundraiser, and so that was a good event, and so many things that go on that we try to get out there and support. Anyway, with that, we'll move on to the consent agenda. As it was noted by staff, we're pulling items 21 and 22 to continue it. And then the board would like to pull item 18. Would anyone from the public would like to pull any of the items on consent? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chair, as amended.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, hearing none. 18. I pulled that one, Mandy.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board.
Good evening. Good morning. I'm sorry. Doggone. I'm trying to turn to the page here. 1 second. What caught my eye was when you bid the containers, storage containers out,
Right.
which was great. You put the bids there, and we upgraded for the specs, and kind of going across, it seemed like you chose one of the storage units that was a little bit slightly more expensive, and but the cheaper storage unit had the venting and had everything. I was wondering what the logic was of that.
And Supervisor Barrios contacted me yesterday about the same subject, so I appreciate the question. I think that the biggest thing in looking at things, and I asked Supervisor Barrios if she had, I don't know if any of you have had the experience working with these units, especially if you buy a used one and it's not painted on the inside. It's kind of like, okay, I'm trying to think of any kind of porous type of material is going to take on the odor and possibly retain, remnants of whatever's been there before. And so it was important for us, in particular, because we're looking to the future for this unit, meaning for right now, it's going to be used for storage for a number of the materials that we have, and if we don't have the climate control, like the storm drain markers, they get brittle and break and that kind of thing. But we eventually want this to be used as an interpretive center out at the landfill. So we were going for again, a more expensive model using the grant funds from Cal Recycle, as well as, well, they're both Cal Recycle grants. One's a recycling grant, the other's a used oil grant, to be able to think long-term. And so the thinking behind going for the more expensive one, it was because it would last longer and it would not, I guess, I'm trying to think of the right words here, but maybe break down under the conditions of whatever we would put inside of it. It was not going to smell like whatever, we'd be able to use this for a long time into the future. We could get one for $6,000 or $7,000 and it would smell like everything we put in there. But it would use, it's just what happens with them. Yeah.
Okay. Supervisor Barrios.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And when I saw the size of this, it really is the size of a classroom or bigger.
Right.
And so I think Mandy is planning that in the future, we could even have students come in.
Right, that's the idea, sure.
And do some, experiments, studies, whatever that may be.
Yeah,
It really needs to be conducive. If it's painted inside, it will really lend itself for a better climate, better atmosphere if they're going to be there for any extensive time.
Yeah, again, the goal, the long-term goal for it, once there is a location on the landfill that is in final cover, we want to place it there and then start encouraging the schools to bring, tours up there to be able to show.
Okay.
But I shared the same concern that you did, because
Okay,
that's
yeah,
always
just looking at the specs across the, it looked very similar, and it looks a little bit more, but that's all I needed.
Sure.
Any other questions from the Supervisor De La Cruz?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mandy,
Yes.
this container will be placed at the landfill, not at the Resource Recovery Center, right?
Right now, it will be placed in the Public Works yard. Then it will eventually go up to the landfill.
But there's no plan or idea that might potentially go to the Resource Recovery Center?
Not at this time, no.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Any comments or questions from the public? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Mr.
hearing
Chair,
none.
we have on today's agenda an addendum, and on that addendum there's one consent item that needs to be approved by the board also.
Okay.
So it's agenda item number 24.1 on the addendum.
All right. So we should identify that and entertain a motion to approve that.
Yes.
Can I have that motion?
I will make that motion, Mr. Chair, and that is to augment the general fund contributions for fiscal year 12-13, budget number 1001180, with $86,299.86 from the general fund contingency budget, unit 1001999, and authorize the payment to the city of Hollister in the amount of the $86,299.86 from the general fund contributions budget number 1001180.
Before I make the second, do we need to open up for any public comment on this?
Yes.
Okay. So we should have public comment on.
That's right.
Okay. I'll for that addendum item for the payment to the city of Hollister. Is there any public comment to this? Seeing none, I have a motion and a second.
Second.
Under the question, Mr. Chair,
Supervisor De La Cruz.
this requires a fourth-fifth vote, right?
I don't know the answer to that. We talked about it, but I believe it does. So.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
Thank you,
Mr. Chair? I apologize, I wasn't able to speak with you before the meeting. In deference to the speaker, and that would be Mr. Jones, who brought up item number 31 at the last meeting, which caused it to be brought back to this agenda. He's not here in the afternoon, and it may be heard in the afternoon. If it be the board's pleasure, could we hear that item now so that he is present?
I was move that up after the oil
Okay,
issue.
Thank
so
you.
We'll do that. Thank you. Speaking of that, we'll move on to a regular agenda. And it's come to the board's attention that we'll have to continue this item due to the requirements of publication. And I'm going to ask staff to do a summary as far as what the changes to the ordinance were from the last meeting, and also to kind of brief the public as far as why this item needs to be continued.
At the last meeting, when it was before the Board of Supervisors, the ordinance was introduced, and there was various changes that were specified at that meeting. The changes that were specified at the meeting to include was to capitalize the Petroleum Administrator and the Board of Supervisors consistently throughout the ordinance, to change safety to safely in section 19.21.001D, and to take out a comma in the same section after the word may, in the phrase the Petroleum Administrator may request. We changed the word into, it was a typo that was separated into two separate words, into in the definition of hazardous materials in section 19.21.004. We changed been exonerated to be exonerated in section 19.21.007B. We changed Department of Building and Planning Services to the Department of Planning and Building Inspection Services in section 19.21.008C. We changed the definition in section 19.21.004 to include the following words at the end of the definition for the word facility, which are related to up to 6 wells. In section 19.21.007A, in the financial assurances section, there's a red line copy in the board's agenda packet. The word well or wells was changed to facility or facilities after about the second sentence in that paragraph. And then it continues down. It said, when more than one bond is provided, each bond shall allow the bond to be drawn upon for any facility authorized under the conditional use permit or relating to the conditional use permit as set forth below. And then it continues the substitution of the word facility for well. And that was the changes that were made. We listened to the tapes of the last meeting, and one change that was requested by Supervisor Barrios wasn't incorporated into the motion. It was in 19.21.006, adding the words at the end of the first sentence of that section, except fees shall not be waived or deferred. So if the board wants to incorporate that into the motion today, that they could add that language. It came to my attention yesterday. I realized that a display ad had not been published in conjunction with this ordinance. This ordinance is very long. Normally, after we adopt an ordinance, it's published in its entirety. For long ordinances, we either publish a summary or a display ad. Both a summary or display ad have to be published twice. The first time, the publication has to be completed 5 days before the meeting, and then it has to be published within 15 days after the meeting. Due to the dates of publication of the paper, it could not be published this Friday, and the soonest that it could be published would be the 31st. Due to the timing for the 5 days that it has to be published before the next meeting, the earliest meeting that this could be adopted to allow a display ad to be published would be the June 18th meeting. So if the cost, we did obtain a cost quote from the paper about publishing it in its entirety, which was $3,389. So due to that cost, I was requesting that the board make the following motion today. Make a motion that the effective date of the ordinance specified in Section 5 of the ordinance be modified from July 1st, 2013 to July 18th, 2013, order that a display ad be published, and continue to June 18th, 2013 at 9 a.m. for adoption. So if the board notices it changes the effective date of the ordinance 18 days later, because instead of becoming effective on July 1st, it'd be effective 30 days after adoption.
Okay,
So if the board has any questions.
Is there any
And
questions?
also, if you want to incorporate that additional change to specify except fees shall not be waived or deferred in the motion, that could also be changed at this time, too. But
Any questions from the board? Seeing,
There is one, Mr. Chair. On 19.21.001, Barbara, which is the very beginning of this, the P was left out of the word petroleum,
Okay.
so it needs to be added there before it's
Okay.
published.
Okay.
So, okay, thank you,
okay,
Mr. Chair.
thank you. And, you know, where this ordinance is at right now, to be very clear, is that there's not be any changes when it's to be continued to a date certain, and then we're going to have a vote on it, and it's to be a up or down type of vote. But today, what we'll do is take public comment, allow folks that took time out of their day to come down here and address the board on this ordinance, and also we'll have public comment the next time that comes back to this board for a decision. With that, do we have any speaker cards?
Yes. First speaker, Natasha Witt.
Good morning to all of you. I'm Natasha Wiss, and I'm here today to ask the Board of Supervisors not to adopt the revised ordinance for these reasons. Number one, reducing the hazard fee for each $1 million gas well from $15,000 a well to approximately $2,500 a well for up to 6 wells is a fraction of what it would cost the county for even a very minor accident or spill. 2, we can't depend upon the federal government to monitor spills and accidents. In 2005, our Congress exempted fracking from key water and air protections. So there are no real federal water and air protections for the fracking industry. 3, our state regulators, which someone mentioned, if there was a terrible hazardous situation, that the state would intervene. Right now, state regulators are underfunded, understaffed, and overwhelmed by the number of gas wells now being proposed and developed in California. The factors are now in on air and groundwater pollution in heavily fracked states such as Texas and North Dakota, and there's a lot of articles and literature on that, on what's happened to their land, the ranchers' and farmers' land. Natural gas is not a clean energy. I know that's been talked about. Natural gas is much better than oil. Well, it isn't a clean energy. 20% of the energy-related carbon emissions in 2008, that was in 2008, were from natural gas wells and large quantities of methane gas, which is 30% stronger than carbon dioxide. And of course, that's why people's water was lighting up. Another point. There are 3 fracking moratorium bills in the California legislature now, and I have some information on fracking and what's happening in the California legislature, and I have a copy of this for each one of the supervisors, so I hope you'll read this. It gives you a lot of good information. Right now, there are 3 fracking moratorium bills in the California legislature, and the Federal Bureau of Land Management has put a moratorium on leasing federal land in California to energy corporations until they really begin to explore. I just have a few more minutes to to talk, I know. So I will repeat. The corporations, oil and gas corporations, are spending over $100 million a year to buy access to legislators all over the country, including in California. Of course, a lot of this lobbying money is going into California to buy access to certain legislatures. So I will repeat.
We're trying to stay with the
Oh, I
3
know, I know.
minutes,
I just want to repeat what Supervisor Rivas said. He said, do we want to give tax breaks to the oil industry over the preservation of agriculture in this county? Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, if we could stay real close at 3 minutes, I would really appreciate that. Thank you.
Next speaker is Samuel Ramos.
Good morning, members of the board. Last time I spoke in behalf of the undocumented immigrants, more specifically the campesino. And today I come to speak for Pachamama, La Madre Tierra, in English, Mother Earth. I am a tribal elder, and this title was given to me by the Raramuri Nation. And so the campesino has his credentials, wears his credentials in his hand, and this credential that was given to me by the Raramuri Nation I wear in my heart. So I would definitely hope that you would reconsider those people that are pro or drilling and fracking. Would you reconsider? That is not good. That is my opinion. And, there's been a lot of disaster throughout Mother Earth, And if you ever drove into Odessa, Texas, I mean, you meet this god-awful reality, or even Hobbs, New Mexico, because they're into that drilling for oil and this kind of thing. So I hope that you really take a really good look at this, because I don't think it's good. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Kind of work our way up. Now we have speaker cards. Now we have speaker cards. Collect all these.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Board of Supervisors. My name is Wayne Norton, and I'm here today. I'm representing ACE, Aromas Cares for the Environment. And I want to really speak in favor of this ordinance. This is a strong ordinance. It's been a collaborative effort. We've tried really hard to work collaboratively with the board to come up with an ordinance that balances interest in San Bernardino County. I got to say I'm a little disappointed that we're not going to be voting on it today, because we have a lot of people who come take vacation days and time off from work to be here to sort of support this work, and I'm sorry that it couldn't happen today. But I want to say that we do support this ordinance. We think it's a strong ordinance, and we want to work with the county in any way we can to make sure it's adopted. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Rob Ryan.
Rob Ryan, I'm a private citizen. I live in Aromas. We spent, 300 million Americans spent last year $4.28 billion to keep Congress in session. The House meets 175 days a year, and that's what the Congress spent to keep the lights on, keep the doors open, pay their salaries, to have 30 to 50 staff support each. They get Cadillac retirements and health care, and they ride the tram to work to get haircuts and lunch on the taxpayer. And what has our Congress accomplished on fracking? There is no substantial legislation. Well, people in Dakota and Pennsylvania can set their tap water on fire, so we got that. And so we're in poor San Benito County. We've got 56,000 residents. I'm standing in these chambers. There was no metal detector. There's nobody here with firearms. There's no security. There's no guys with the little white cord in their ear. And we have some supervisors that are working real hard to do a good job. I don't think you guys have much in the way of staff. I took a look at the county budget, and it seems that whereas we pay $14.26 each to keep Congress open, San Benito citizens spend $7.57, half, to keep you guys in hamburgers and hot dogs. So for half of what we pay Congress, what are we getting here? Is it 100% more? Is it 1,000% more? There is an ordinance. You did think it through. You defied the odds. I congratulate you. Industry will be able to drill and frack its heart out, and hopefully the citizens will have clean air to breathe and clean water to drink. So what's the best governance? Is it the most expensive? It is not. It's right here in this room. And although he's long retired, I happened to be able to reach through to Smokey the Bear, and he gave me a message. And he said this was especially for Supervisor De La Cruz. Remember, only you can prevent faucet fires. Thank you.
Thank you.
It is a hard act to follow. Good morning, supervisors. My name is Vicki Morris. This morning I'm here representing the Aromas Water District, and I wanted to say that our board has been following the progress of the revision of the ordinance since its inception. They're very interested in it. They appointed a risk assessment committee, an ad hoc committee, to report back to our board all of the progress that's being made. Primarily, our interest is in water quality, obviously, and I want to point out that the ordinance does address those issues, whereas the old ordinance didn't mention it whatsoever. So now we're at least looking at how much water is being used, where it's being used, and maybe more importantly, what's going to happen with the wastewater and the disposal of that water. And not only just looking at it, but hopefully there will be teeth in the ordinance to actually enforce it. And I would like to encourage the board to adequately fund the departments that need to do this, because it's not going to happen unless there's actual people that can follow it along and enforce it. Anyway, to that end, I'd like to say thank you, and specifically to Supervisor Botello, who represents our area and has gone above and beyond. And also to Supervisor Menzer, who worked on the ad hoc committee as well. And of course, all of you who have been reading the myriads of revisions. Moving on from that, I did want to say I'm disappointed as well that we're not going to be able to approve it today. We've spent a lot of time and people have taken a lot of days off. One of the questions I had for you was when Barbara had mentioned that it wouldn't be able to be heard until a month from now. And when I'm looking at the 5 days and adding all those days up, it seems to me that if the ordinance was published in the paper, came out Friday the 31st, the meeting is the 4th, that's 5 days. Does it need 6 days? I mean, I don't understand why it can't be 2 weeks sooner. So if you could look at that, I would appreciate that. Anyway, that's pretty much it. Again, I want to thank you and encourage you to adequately fund the departments that need to enforce it. And I know that's a tall order, too. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morris.
Next speaker is Ed Mitchell.
I'm Ed Mitchell. I'm a member of ACE, but I'm also from Monterey County because we butt up against San Benito, and this issue is started originally in our county. The issue before you is not
for or against petroleum production. That's going to occur. The issue and the appropriate policy approach that you should be taking is, given that the industry will be here, given that fracking of multiple ways will occur, are we adequately putting in regulations that allow production and safely protecting people on the surface areas, our roads, our waters, etc.? And I urge you that the modifications that approached last time, which was switching from a well to a facility, I think it's going to cause a managerial difficulty or game playing in terms of trying to figure out if they do a fracking technique that's more eastern because of the way it's done in the east, and you have a large field. Where are the boundaries for the facility? How are we managing that? It makes it difficult for the operator himself. The well definition is easier. If the value is dropped from 15 to 10, fine. Think about the history. If you don't know the history of California and the West in regards to mining, there has been a steady and a routine history that the mining industries have impacted the other industries in the area quite significantly, like the hydraulic gold mining that flooded Sacramento City. You're in the front of a period of time where you have a large industrial mining going forward. These regulations are not that, they're not intrusive. You're trying to protect against those incidences that will pop up downrange that could be very significant. Low percentage, but when they happen, very damaging. Please approve the ordinance, but keep the well definition. It'll do you well and it'll help the operator. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mitchell. Would anyone else like to address the board? If not, I'm going to close the public comment period. And Ms. Thompson, you have something to add?
Yes, we looked at that issue about counting back. Unless there's a specific statute that directs you to count the first day of publication and the last day of the publication period, and there are some specific government code sections that tell you how to calculate. Normally you would not include the first day, and you would count back 5 days, not including like either the first or like the first day of your counting period. So you wouldn't count the 31st, you'd actually start on the 1st and count 5 days. So how I've calculated it, it really should be published by May 30th instead of the 31st to have the 5 full days of notice.
Okay, thank you.
So.
Okay. Supervisor Munzer?
Okay, I just want clarification.
Yes.
So you're saying for it to come before us on June 4th, the publication would have to be done on June 30th?
May 30th.
May 30th, I'm sorry.
Yes.
And we have no paper published on that
Right,
day.
right.
So
Because if it's published on May 31st, I would count the first day would be June. After the publication, the first day would be the June 1st, then the second would be June 2nd, third day. So it's only four real full days of public notice.
okay, so I wanted the audience to be
Yeah.
fully aware
Yeah.
and have it perfectly clear why it has to
Yeah.
go to the 18th.
Because otherwise you're including
One's
both.
trying to drag it out. It's
Yeah.
just an unforeseen.
I just don't, normally you would not include that very first day of when you're counting the days off.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I know we're as disappointed as probably a lot of folks out in our gallery about not adopting this ordinance today, and I know our staff feels the same way, but we have to comply with the laws, and it's the way we interpret them. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to continue this item to a date.
Mr. Chair, I will make a motion that we continue, that the effective date of the ordinance specified in Section 5 of the ordinance be modified from July 1st, 2013 to July 18th, 2013. Order that a display ad be published and continued to June 18th, 2013 at 9 a.m. for adoption, and to direct staff that fees for a conditional use permit related to oil and gas shall not be waived or deferred without the prior approval of the Board of Supervisors.
And that's going to be added in section 19.21.006.
Yes. I will include that to read that way.
And I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, and I thank the public for its patience. We'll move on to item, let's see, I wanted to move up item 31.
Yeah.
CEO Espinoza.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, this is item 31. This is requesting the approval contract of Ruby Canyon Engineering for greenhouse gas verification services on behalf of the regional agency for the period of July 1st, 2013 through December 31st, 2013 at a cost not to exceed $12,000. This item was at our last Board of Supervisors meeting, and we continue this item to a regular agenda, and we have Mandy Rose available. She's our Director of Integrated Waste to go over this item with you, Board.
Good morning again, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I understand there was a question from a member of the audience, happens to be Mr. Jones, so I'm not sure if board members have any additional questions or whether we just want to take comment.
Okay, any questions from the board on this item? With that, I'll open it up to public comment. Dr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I thank Mandy for getting them to pull it up here. She knows my afternoon schedule. And the questions I had a couple of weeks ago when this came up were answered by Mandy. One of them was that this contract does not require survey of a facility for generating carbon dioxide. And that caught my attention. Turns out the surveys have been done. They're not going to be repeated. So that question was alleviated there. Several other questions that Mandy has also answered. There was one that Mr. Munzer, you may have picked up on this about when we turn on our lights, when we have our air conditioner on. The way I read this was that San Benito County gets credit or penalty, whichever way you want to call it. San Benito County gets credit for the carbon dioxide that was generated, that was released to generate the electricity to turn on our lights and our air conditioners. And that was a little ambiguous there, and that was the only question I really have left there. Does San Benito County get credit for the carbon dioxide that's generated? And does the power plant over wherever it happens to be that generate the carbon dioxide, do they get the benefit, or is it counted twice? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? We'll take all the questions one.
Good morning again, Marty Richmond from Hollister. Just to work with the former question, I wasn't prepared for it, but it brings up an interesting point. If it turns out that the answer is that we get penalized because for the generation of the electricity, perhaps with a coal plant, who knows, do we like what, and they get credit where they generate it because we used it, can we flip that on them and all the carbon monoxide, dioxide generated by the steers here, by the cattle industry that we get penalized for? Can we charge that off to whoever eats the steak? I just want to know. That's all, because that way we can get a reduction here.
I like that idea.
They get a reduction.
I like that idea.
You bet. I mean, we ought to make, if we as consumers are going to get charged with the generation of greenhouse gas, then the people who consume the agriculture that we sell them should get penalized for the greenhouse gas, and it should come off our tab. Thank you for your
Okay. Any other comments from the public? Not, we'll close the public comment. And Ms. Rose, you want to answer a couple of those questions?
I'm not sure about the last one, but but okay, let's start with Mr. Jones's question. And I saw Mr. Jones last night at the City Council meeting. I was explaining to him that this works a lot like solid waste in terms of if the waste is generated in San Benito County, but you drive it up to Kirby Canyon and Morgan Hill, and that's Santa Clara County, that still gets attributed to San Benito County because that's where it was generated. So in the same way, what this report, and I do agree with Mr. Jones, it could have been, there are a couple places that could have been worded more clearly. What occurs is, yes, we the electricity is generated somewhere else, but we are the user. And it's, he used the term credit, charge, whatever, they're sort of used interchangeably. We have to take responsibility for the emissions that occur for the electricity we use. So even though the emissions are occurring in another jurisdiction, they are, I'm going to use the term charged against us, because we are the ones actually generating. It's generated over there, but it's, you know, obviously wheeled to us, and we use it here. So San Benito County, City of Hollister, City of San Juan Bautista, each of those three jurisdictions, we get the reports from PG&E and how much electricity is generated in each of those jurisdictions, and that's what's charged against us. And same happens, you know, I'm sure it's mostly the Moss Landing plant, Monterey County, Santa Cruz County, et cetera. It's all allocated out by the user base, so that the emissions that you're responsible for. So if we never turned on any electricity in San Benito County, nothing would be charged against us. But that's not the way it is. There have been discussions, it's not as far-fetched as Mr. Richmond says, about cattle, but I'm not sure where that's going to end up. But I think if you took it maybe to its most sublime, you would get to if the cattle's here and you eat it here, it's the consumer here, so it's generated here, it would stay here. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Things can get crazier, but the goal of this report and these reportings is to find out what we are responsible for here in our jurisdiction, regardless of where the source is, because we don't have a power plant here. We're taking, you know, electricity from somewhere else, and so it's not fair to, because we're the one taking that, you know, energy to charge them for the stuff that we're responsible for. So that, I mean, that's the premise behind it. You know, you can agree or disagree with it, but that's how it's set up. So. And again, this is a regional agency project, and as noted, the county's share of this contract is $3,960.
Any questions from the board? Well, I always thought we got a raw end of the deal in the fact that, you know, one, as a human unit like myself, I grow plants and use up CO2. I should get credit. In fact, I should get my electricity for free. But, you know, we get a raw end of the deal in a way on this whole program, but we have to play the game, I guess, and that's all it is. And so we're complying with state laws, but one of these days maybe justice will prevail. But if there's no further discussion with the board, we could entertain a motion.
Move per staff recommendation.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, hearing none. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
We'll move back to item
26.
26.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, this is an item that we're going to reintroduce to your board, a new ordinance establishing the Administrative Citation Authority. And reading the title of the ordinance for the record would be Ordinance of the County of San Benito adding Chapter 1.04 Administrative Citations to Title I of the San Benito County Code to allow for the issuance of administrative citations for violations of the San Benito County Code and accept introduction, waive further reading of the ordinance, and continue to June 4th, 2013 for adoption. And we have Margie Riopel here to assist us with presenting this. Margie?
The only thing that I wanted to reference for your board is the reason we have to reintroduce it. And the reason we have to reintroduce it is because staff is requesting a few more changes to the ordinance. The board had made a change, and so I'm referencing those changes in this item. Under definitions 1.04.002, we've added clerk of the board and also a designee. Under county administrative officer, we've added a designee for clarification purposes and for enactment of the ordinance. Under administrative citations, under 1.04.003, C is the phrase that was taken out at your board's request. It would, the term that we took out,
It was which pertains to building, plumbing, electrical, or similar structural or zoning matters. We took that out so that it would be more flexible in its use, and that was the other change that was made. So today, if you are in agreement, then I would request that you accept the introduction, waive further reading, and continue the matter to June 4th for adoption. Ray read the title previously, so I didn't read it again.
Any questions? Supervisor Barrios?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Margie, I really am concerned on how the interest is going to be. There's no specific amount mentioned in the ordinance, and I think communities should know what they're going to have to pay up front. I know the tax collector already has in place for late taxes, I believe it's 18% per year, which would be 1.5% per month. And I think it's appropriate that they know going in and not paying this bill what they're going to be up against. So I think we should make reference to that.
Under D, amount of fines,
Yes.
an amount should be referenced there?
Correct.
I'm not sure what fee was going to be.
I didn't see any reference to any amount, and I don't know if the county has somewhere else an ordinance that specifically states what the interest will be on anything that is owed to the county. So I thought we could use the model that they use at the tax collector's office. Or the
It is
percentage.
referenced, however, under 1.04.012, and it says,
1.2.
yeah, any person who fails to pay any fine or penalty imposed pursuant to provisions of this chapter on or before the date of the fine shall be liable for payment of any applicable late charges as may be adopted by the Board of Supervisors by resolution. So that means that it would be flexible pertaining to each, so it would be open pertaining to each type of fine that was collected. In other words, because this citation authority is going to be used by different agencies for different purposes, we did not want to make it so strict that it could not be used differently. Because there are different types of violations.
Okay, but the amount that is being fined is the same
The
for
fines
building.
The fines are imposed in number
Two
A and B.
different categories, right, for building and also for
Correct.
non-safety violations.
Correct.
So why couldn't we impose or say this is what we're going to charge for a late fee and give a percentage?
It's a question about what the late penalty charges will be
Yes.
pursuant to.
Yeah, because, I mean, somebody could owe
I think that we would have to-
$1,000, not know what their penalty is going to be, and then all of a sudden, we're going to say, well, you owe an extra $200.
Come back.
I don't think that's fair.
Before the board establishing the late penalty charges.
Okay.
Yeah.
My understanding, looking at the ordinance, is that the calculation of the late payment is going to be determined by the adoption of the Board of Supervisors by a resolution. So what needs to happen is this needs to come back before the board for consideration of what the late penalty should be.
Okay, so we really don't have anything in place at this time.
It appears that the ordinance does not contemplate the amount of the late payment charge, that is to be set by the board via resolution.
So that'll be something separate, and I'm okay with that, as long as we consider what we're going to charge up front and address it.
Yes.
Before we charge it. So, okay, thank you.
I guess I have a question, because I'm concerned about the fee amount, $100 on the first occurrence now. So if someone is in violation of one thing, that's $100. Now, if we find out that they have two things, is that $200 on the same occurrence, or is it just $100 per citation?
It could be multiples. So if you have a building, and there is a provision that I'll have Margie go back and refer where they get a warning, usually an allowance to correct before the administrative citation program would kick in. in normal circumstances. But let's say that you went out to a building that had 5 separate building code violations like plumbing and electrical, et cetera, they could write more than one violation.
So it would be $500?
I mean, it theoretically could be.
Okay, maybe since we have the animal control person here too, I'll use that as an example. There's a limitation of 5 dogs per household, I think, according to our ordinance. If a person has 7 dogs, is that $200?
No, it'd be $100.
It would be $100, okay.
Because it's just the violation of that section. And so it would just be one violation.
Okay. And if someone put in a water heater on their own, they went to Home Depot, bought a water heater, didn't come down, get a permit to put in there, and somehow they're caught. Not that I advocate that you should get a permit for a water heater, but that is the law. That is the law.
Agree.
But now that's a $100 occurrence. The point I'm trying to make is, how do we come up with the $100 fee? Because our code enforcement, everybody it makes, probably half of that in an hour. And
Well, I think that the amount was set, that is what the City of Hollister amounts are. 100 for the first violation, 200 for the second violation if you didn't correct it. Say your dog was running loose in January and you got caught again in March, then that would be the second violation.
yeah.
It also reflects Chapter 1.03 in our code enforcement that already provides for infraction citations are punishable by $100 for the first violation, fine not exceeding $200 for the second violation, and a fine not exceeding $500 for the additional violation. And it also reflects state law that shows the difference in the fine amounts for building, health and building code violations versus other type of violations. So those amounts were pulled from state law and existing county code. Those were the 2 sources to determine those amounts.
Okay, because this is really the foundation for handling a lot of our code enforcement problems and putting fines in place, not only for animal control, but for a number of different areas of enforcement that we need to do. And I just worry that we're spending $150 to collect $100. And as long as we're not doing that, and as we go into this ordinance and we do the hearings and all that, I could see somebody fighting this thing, and we're going to spend $1,000 to fine them $100, and that's the problem.
I do know that other jurisdictions have used it successfully, especially in Southern California. I've never worked for a jurisdiction that's had this administrative citation program in place, so I have not personally used it, but I do know that it's common, and a lot of jurisdictions use it as a way. It breaks even when they do use it, and some of them do make some money from it, especially the larger cities in Southern California in their code enforcement, and they find it an effective way. In addition, sometimes when you go to court and the judge finds you guilty of an infraction, there's the court add-on costs as well that really increase the amount that person has to pay, in addition to the base fine that's imposed by the court.
I think what the county is going to experience is that a large amount of the people that have received a citation will pay it, hopefully in the 75–80% range. In those situations, the county's costs are probably going to be covered. Mm-hmm. But we will always have the 5%, the 10% that are going to challenge the ticket, that are going to demand the administrative hearings, that are going to want their day in court. On those cases, the county is probably going to lose money. Yeah. So I think we told the board when we started this process, the hope is that the program will pay for itself or generate some revenue, but don't count on it, and don't count on it initially. As the startup costs and as the program gets rolled out, there's going to be, the public is not going to see this, hasn't seen this before. getting the ticket is going to be a shock. I'm not sure what type of reaction we're going to get, at least initially. So there's going to be some startup costs that hopefully once the program gets underway, it'll be successful and people will comply, or if they get the ticket, they will pay. But it is an unknown right at the moment.
Yeah, well, I know all of us in each of our districts, we have issues that you look at and you sure wish you could get a citation out there and get it out there right away. I had one last Sunday in my district of a special event that I don't think came in for the permit process, and that, you know, and it was a big event, and it you know, they shun maybe our rules, but which brings me to the other point that I'm concerned about with this ordinance is the hardship component. What kind of hardship could possibly be out there that somebody can't pay a $100 fine? I just don't get it. And can a person claim hardship for drunk driving or speeding in a school zone and doing things like that? I don't think we should consider hardship at all in this ordinance.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. Chair, for bringing that up. That was one of my concerns as well, because I don't know what is in place to verify the hardship. Anybody can come in and say they are not working, and they could be working, but getting paid under the table and say they don't have a job. I know that there are true hardships for people that have lost their jobs, have, you know, a family and have a mortgage or whatever, but if they find that this person is guilty and they had a hardship and couldn't pay the deposit, now they're guilty, they're going to have to pay the fine. Are we then going to say you have a hardship, you don't have to pay the fine? How are we going to differentiate on those two things?
The hardship waiver only refers to the citation fine. They do not have to pay it up front, but they will have to pay it. That is all the hardship waiver imposes. It's not a waiver of fees.
So the issue becomes a due process one. I'm innocent. I've gotten a ticket that's unfair or unjust, and I want my hearing, okay? But now you want me to deposit X number of dollars, $100 to, I don't have that money. I'm innocent. I don't have that money. I'm poor or whatever. So the question becomes, for poor people or people that are operating under financial hardship, is it fair to say to them, you don't get your day in court, you don't get your day before the hearing officer unless you pay this advance deposit? A superior court reviewing this ordinance might have a problem with that. So the way around it is to say, if you can come before the CAO or the designate or whoever it is and demonstrate true financial problems, you don't have to make the advance deposit. You'll get your day in court, you'll get your hearing. But if the administrative hearing officer rules that you're not innocent, that you have in fact broken the law, you have to pay the fine, poor or not poor. Okay? So the waiver is a waiver of the advance deposit for the hearing to comply, not run afoul of due process requirements.
I can support that with that explanation, Mr. Chair. I can support that as long as I know that it doesn't apply to paying the fine if they're found to be guilty.
It's not a get-out-of-jail card free or get-out-of-jail-free card. You don't say, well, I have an illegal water heater and I'm poor, therefore I don't have to pay the fine. No, it's just that for due process reasons, I get my hearing in court, and you can't deny me my hearing in court because I'm poor.
Okay. All right. Yeah, and that was the only thing that I was, now if it's enough for me to vote against this, no, absolutely not. I want to get this program in place personally, but Julie?
I'd just like to add that, you know, we're administering criminal citations now, and even through the judicial system, people still are not paying, so you still have that same type of thing where people have bench warrants, they don't even show up for court. So like Mr. Granger said, you'll still have that 75% that don't comply even with the criminal system too. So this is just a way for the county to get compliance without people having to go to court and burden the court system, and still a way for the county to generate some revenue.
Okay, thank you. Because that's the fairness, whether it should go cut all across the whole gamut of citizens. Is the administration of it being fair is what I'm after.
And I have one more change, Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Barrios,
On
yeah.
Section 2 of, let me look at the number, 1.04.015, codification, it reads, "The remaining sections shall be not be codified." So something needs to change there. It's either codified or not codified. So we need to make changes to that statement.
I don't see it. You see it?
It's Section 1 shall be codified, the remaining sections shall not be codified.
So the remaining sections shall...
Not be codified, referring to sections 2
And we need to cross
through
out
5.
one of the Bs?
Yes.
Okay, the first B?
Yes.
Okay, otherwise it sends the wrong
Yes.
message. Thank you.
Yes, it just means that we don't have to codify sections 2 through 5.
Okay, so the remaining sections, so you are going to remove that B? That's the first one? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. I'll open it up to public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was looking at this in a slightly different manner, maybe at this administrative citation with the cost recovery mechanism, or another revenue stream, or a new method for the county to collect money from its citizens. I follow the rationale, or at least that was my rationale of the way when I read this. So any violation of the county code, be it a dog catcher, be it a building inspector, or whatever, you get a ticket. When my dog got out, I had to go pay to get him out of the pound. And truth, in full disclosure, one time he got out, and I got there just as the dog catcher got him. And the dog catcher gave him back to me. No citation. Okay, fair enough. I thank you, thank you. Be that as it may. You get a ticket. You go pay your ticket. Now we've got a new revenue stream. The individual issuing the ticket can also issue an administrative citation to cover his costs for issuing you the ticket. Gets a little ambiguous. What's the cost for recovering a ticket or issuing a ticket? Well, it's a sliding scale. Once $100 for the first one in the year. If you get a second one in the year, it's more. And does that, your question, Mr. Chairman, about does it recover the cost? It may not. So we've got a fixed fee on something that's supposed to be a cost recovery. I repeat, does it recover the cost or does it not recover the cost? Is it a fixed fee or a cost recovery? And if someone gets a ticket and has the unmitigated goal to request a hearing, the administrative officer can write an additional report, that's 1.04.011E. He can write an additional report which is going to raise the cost. Now, is the fine still $100 for the first one, or does that get added on? Which is it? It's ambiguous. Needs some clarification. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from public? Not, I'll close public comment and bring it back to the board for a decision or further discussion. I think this is a program that we should probably move forward with and evaluate, the costs. That's the only thing concerns me. I do want some sort of citation process. I believe in the fines. It's not as much as a revenue stream as much as I think compliance of county ordinances and providing the incentive for that. So that's where I'm at. Marcy?
I'd like to add one more thing. One of the reasons we're here today looking at this administrative citation authority and powers is to get compliance, for one, and and to get some type of revenue for those code enforcement officers and those enforcement officers that are already doing the work and are not getting compliance, that are going and going to individuals and asking them to take care of a problem that don't take care of the problem. And it continues. The compliance isn't there, and so there's no remedy to fix it without going to court, which is a long process and, again, takes more time of the code enforcement officers and the animal control officer. Therefore, this will give us a mechanism to expedite the process. That part has not been discussed, and yes, there's lots of cost recovery that needs to be made that's not being made at all right now. When it goes to court, the courts get the money, we get nothing, or very, very small amount, fraction of the cost. So those are other things that are not included or not maybe talked about in clarity, but this is a big issue for those officers that are trying to enforce the code. So.
Thank you.
Good morning. I just want to add one thing. This is going to be an additional tool to the existing code enforcement section. When you revert back to the original code enforcement section, we have the right to charge legal surcharge fees, and we have the right to double the permit fee for violations. So this fine here is going to be because they caused it. Now, when somebody comes in to apply for their building permit, that permit fee is going to be also doubled. So that's not specifically stated here because our goal is compliance, but looking at the end result of it, just because we're implementing an administrative citation to resolve something does not mean that they're not going to be legally obligated to pay those double penalty fees that they've inherited because they've created that violation. So it's specifically stated already in our code enforcement sections that we can charge a legal surcharge fee, which is $125, per violation, and then there's also site-specific areas for doubling that permit fee, not only in our code but also in the building code sections.
That's a good point. Thank you.
So there, again, might be a good point to realize that's where our cost recovery is going to come in. That, and it's going to reduce our staff time a little bit, hopefully.
Thank you. Thanks, Stacy. Supervisor De La Cruz?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'm willing to go along with this program with one add-on to it, and that is that we bring it back to the board 6 months from now, see how it's working, see if it's working smooth, and see if we have complaints from the community. And if that's okay, Mr. Chair, I just want to hear a report in 6 months. How is it going?
Okay, that makes sense. If there's no further discussion, if someone want to make a motion.
Mr. Chair, since the title has already been read, I would move that our board accept introduction, waive the further reading of the ordinance, and continue to June 4th, 2013 for adoption.
Okay.
I second with the changes that I recommended on that one section.
Sure. Noted.
Mr. Chair, on the question, and we'll direct staff to put it on.
We'll direct staff to bring it back in 6 months for a report on the program. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Thank you. We'll move on to the next item, CAO Espinosa. I guess it's along the same lines. Oh, I'm sorry. Why don't we take a 5-minute break? Thank you. Before we start on the next one. Okay, I guess we're ready to move on to item 27. Marge?
Ray's not here. Can we start with that? Yes?
Oh, yeah.
He's giving it.
Ray's giving it?
Or,
then
no,
we
I'm
need
giving it. But,
Ray then.
okay.
Went to get some water. He'll be right back.
Oh, okay. We'll give it a couple of minutes. It's 3:97. There you are, Ray. You're the star of the show.
This is item number 27, and this is really kind of a continuance of what we just discussed. This is adopting a resolution granting the County Code Enforcement Office Administrative Citation Authority and the Administrative Citation Program that is included as Exhibit A to the resolution. We have also Margie Riepel here to discuss that.
So it's something that the County Code Enforcement Officer has been requesting, and so it's here today for your approval. It's a resolution granting her citation authority.
Any questions from the board?
I may have some, Mr. Chair. I am going to look through, I'll make a comment first of all. The 10 business days to correct or otherwise remedy the violation. Is there some flexibility for unusual circumstances? I mean, 10 days is not a long time. Somebody may have an illness, somebody may be on vacation and not realize the problem or whatever. Is there special circumstance, allowed? Because I really like the idea that this is flexible, it's considerate, we're giving people the opportunity to correct the violations before they're fined, but we need to have that flexibility beyond the 10 days.
Maybe I can comment for this. First of all, when we first initially brought this, I think that was questioned because it said immediately, and the board recommended that we do at least 10 days. When you look at our current county code sections, it says within 14 days. And the way that I typically deal with these things, since we are looking for compliance, as long as I have that initial contact and I am on the same page with that property owner and we have some kind of a process made out as far as how compliance is going to be achieved with that same output, I am workable on those, and I typically require that they put them in writing, so that way they have to be accountable for their own timeframes that they implement themselves. And it works pretty well with me. As long as you make that initial contact and you have that rapport,
okay,
and there's that willingness, most definitely we can negotiate on that 10 days. But typically if we have something to stand by, and like I said, the county code already in the code enforcement section shows no more than 14 days. When we send a notice of violation out, it's within 14 days.
Okay, well, I appreciate that, thank you. And then the other thing, Mr. Chair, if I still have the floor, is on the administrative citation, it lists the fines per non-safety, building and safety codes. But then if you look down further at the, and those are very clear, it talks about the first, second, and third fine. But if you look down at the county logo area where it has the where it says county logo and then it has the automated citation number with the explanation, I guess that's going to be to the person that receives the citation. They'll get this information. If you look at the second paragraph, it doesn't match the actual citation amount on the top. If you a non-safety is 100, 200, and 500.
Right.
And I believe that down
It's
here.
Fines for non-safety are 100, 200, and 500
For the third.
for the third
And that one is
intersection.
okay, but not if you look at the building, which is the very first one.
It's 100.
Up on the top, it's 1, 5, and 1, I believe. 100, 500, and 1,000. Yes, and if you look at the actual paragraph, it lists it as 1, 2,
I put
and
200
1,000.
on this. Is this correct, incorrect?
Do you see that,
Yeah, I
Margie?
see where it is.
Okay, so that needs to be changed so there's no confusion for the person that's receiving that ticket. It has to be the same.
Well, yeah, we need to, this is a sample for the citation.
100, 200, and 500 in the building.
100, 200, and 500. So the language is correct, the citation that's listed here is wrong, so I need to change
So
that.
what should it be, Margie?
100, 200, and 1,000, is that the one you're talking
So
about?
then the citation is wrong with 500 for the second,
No, it's,
Well, in the code, currently under the infraction section, under 103.002 criminal penalties, under that infraction section, it specifically states $100 for first violation, $200 for second violation within 1 year, and then it says a fine not exceeding $500 for each additional violation of the same ordinance within 1 year.
is that for the non-safety?
That is for the non-safety.
Okay, the one that is wrong is the building.
the 1,000, was there
It
another
says,
one?
I'm
building
looking at the
section.
code itself, the administrative citation ordinance. It says 100, 500, and 1,000 for violation of local building and safety codes.
And those got pulled from the building section. So what we did is, Margie and I both worked on these forms, and so what we did is, because you have non-safety code sections, and maybe we need to clarify this on our sampled form here, is there's 2 sections here. So, for example, if you had a non-safety code violation, the person issuing the citation would mark one of those boxes up on that first level where it says non-safety. Now, if you have a building safety code violation, then you would take and mark one of those boxes on that subsection. So I could see where that would get confusing And we definitely need to make sure that whatever those specific site numbers are consistent with what they are on the back as far as on the description.
Okay, because it was confusing. If it listed, it looked like it was, should have been 500 based on the ticket, the
Right,
actual
yeah, exactly. These,
citation.
we're still kind of fumbling with the format of that, and that automated citation number is when we have these printed, we'll have one of the local companies do it, and they'll be in triplicate format, and then we'll have them automatically numbered for tracking purposes.
All right.
So this was just served as a sample of how we were going to try to do the citations.
Okay, and then I have issue, Mr. Chair, if I may continue, just with the monthly expenses. You have, this is to the waiver for the hardship. It lists loans, credit cards, property, no explanation of what property is. And I just have a real hard time verifying all of this. And I know it's going to be on the hands of our CAO, I believe. That's a lot of work. And I don't know how we're going to get through this, but I hope that it doesn't become an issue in the future.
I think Supervisor De La Cruz's suggestion, and we take a look at it in 6 months, was pretty solid.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Any questions, comments from the public? We'll bring it back for an action here.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we adopt resolution granting the county code enforcement officer administrative citation authority and the administrative citation program that is included as Exhibit A to the resolution, and it is resolution number 2013-37.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none. We'll move on to item 28.
28 is our last item with regards to this. It's another resolution granting the animal control officer of the City of Hollister administrative citation authority and the implementation of the administrative citation procedures as Exhibit A to the resolution. And again, we have Margie here to comment on this.
So this is a similar resolution, only it refers to City of Hollister and Animal Control Officer and a program that they have in place that they will be adapting for our purposes and on behalf of the county in relation to animal control citations.
Any questions from the board? I'll open it up for public comment. Any questions from the public or comments? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board.
Move to adopt the resolution granting the Animal Control Officer of the City of Hollister administrative citation authority and the implementation of the administration citation procedure as Exhibit A to the resolution number 2013-38. 38, I'm sorry.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none. Thank you.
Thank you.
CEO Espinoza on 211.
Yeah, thank you. So this particular item, we've been working on this in the administration as well as with Supervisor Munzer on bringing this to our county, 211. In brief, we're going to have Star Wolf. She's our San Benito County coordinator from United Way for San Benito County. She's going to be giving a presentation on what 211 is and the benefits that it provides to our community from a safety perspective as well as a health and human services or health perspective too. So we have Star here for the presentation. Thank you, Star.
Thank you for having me. So I'm honored to talk to you about 211 San Benito. It's an initiative that the United Way is working on bringing to San Benito along with, we have a steering committee of 18 different people made up from government officials to nonprofits to for-profit companies that span over the entire community. And when I say community, of course, the whole county. So 211 is like 911, but it's for health and human services. It's easy to remember phone number that's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's in 150 different languages. It's available not only by dialing 211, but online, and now there's also a mobile app. And what 211 is going to do to help our community is that if somebody has a need, they can dial 211, and 211 will take a couple minutes to screen them and they can offer them services. So for instance, if you had an elder parent and you lived out of the area or just maybe on the other side of town, and they had a need with, say, PG&E assistance, you could call 211. 211 would tell you where you could get that assistance, but they could also offer other services. For instance, if you work full-time and you can't help your parent get from their home to a medical appointment, they can refer you to a service that can help you with that. They may also refer you to the food bank to get food, or to Hoveness to get assistance with Meals on Wheels. So it doesn't matter what your age is, it doesn't matter your ethnic background, it doesn't matter your level of income. 211 is available for everyone in the county. 211 also is an amazing tool for our community during the time of a disaster. If, for instance, we had another huge earthquake, 211 will relieve pressures off of 911 so that if callers called in, we could direct them on school closures or road closures, or where they can find emergency shelter and food, where to find their loved ones, or even where to place their animals if that was the necessary case. So in order to have this 24/7, 7 days a week, we will share a call center, and also with David Westrick here, Captain Westrick. I also have Keisha Frost from United Way of Santa Cruz. They've had this program going in Santa Cruz County for the last several years. We're kind of an island around most of our communities, or the surrounding counties. We're the last one that doesn't have it. So I've brought her also if you have any questions. And then Captain Westrick, do you want to talk to him about the benefits of 211 as far as public safety?
Yes. Good morning, Chair and the board. You know, this is my third agency I've worked at here in California, and the other ones were in different counties, and we actually had 211 and services like this. And so for this county, this is a really unique and great opportunity for us to, under one phone number, provide services that we can refer in public safety that will really assist our community members. For example, there's no real one number to call if someone's in crisis right now. There just isn't one right here in our county. And this $20,000 to $1,000 investment for our community is rather cheap for if we even save one life. How it would really affect public safety, and as you know, the last few years we've made some adjustments with the way that we dispatch 911 and dispatch our public safety. And as you know, in that contract, it's a cafeteria plan. The more that we use, the more we pay. This theoretically should alleviate many of those calls that are marginal for 911. And in fact, in Santa Cruz County, they did see quite a significant drop once 211 was established. In fact, that extrapolated that, I'm sorry, that the benefits were actually over 2 or 3 years, there's more and more calls. In fact, I believe it was 9,000 calls last year that 211 took. And just imagine how that would manifest itself in savings for both the county and the city of Hollister if we're paying per call. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Supervisor Munzer.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm proud to be associated with United Way for San Bernardino County, and proud to be part of the steering committee for bringing 211 to San Bernardino County. I think it's going to be a great service for all of our population, all of our people, and it's just going to be a great service. Someone mentioned yesterday in our steering committee meeting that teens, you know, typically need to call suicide prevention lines, and either for themselves or for friends, and they're reluctant to do that. But they would be able to call 211 first, which may be less threatening to them, and 211 will talk them through them. They will not release them until they have suicide prevention online with them, and that could save a life. And like Captain Westrick said, you know, what's the cost of one life? So I think this is going to be a great program. It's going to be a collaboration of both public, hopefully both public, nonprofit and private donations to fund it. And the United Ways across the country have found that because of the long-term funding source for it, not to just go strictly to the public agencies to get the funding, but to have the funding source spread out so that you always have the funds coming in. So I think it's going to be a great opportunity for our community and a great service. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Supervisor Barrios?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That on the technical side of it, do we actually connect with the other counties? Is there one main, just like 911 where you have a regional? Is that the way it would work
Right.
with us, and that's where the cost is to connect?
Right. So the way that it works is we've had to file a huge application with the Public Utilities Commission. In order to do that, we had to have endorsement letters from about 15 different agencies across the county that serve different areas, whether it be seniors or veterans or women or youth. And then part of the cost is for a call center in Ventura. The great thing about having a call center outside of our area, one, the cost is, substantially lower because we could never fund staff 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for $20,000. But if you have a disaster in the area where you live, having somebody outside of the area that's able to stay calm and take on those additional calls is huge. And if they get an influx with the flip of a switch, they're able to transfer additional calls to another call center. So for instance, last year when the hurricanes were happening in New Jersey, they were taking calls for them in Houston and in New York to help take that burden off of that local area so that they could focus on their own families and lives and what was going on there. Another portion that's this fund, or the $20,000 will go to, is United Way of Bay Area has a staff person to update the information on a continual basis so that when our callers call in, they make sure that they're getting the right addresses, the right phone numbers, the right information. And then part of that is also marketing material, because if we don't market it and people don't use it, why have the program? And so the steering committee has come up with an enormous amount of ways that we can go out and market it. I think Jerry brought up or Supervisor Mundler brought up a great point as far as the suicide prevention. It brings me to tell you that the calls are confidential, although the operators will ask the caller if they would like them to follow up with them. And if they do allow them to do that, they'll call back in 3 days. And they'll follow up and make sure that the information was correct, that they got the services in the community that they needed, and if they didn't, if there's other ways that they may be able to help them. I think another great thing this is going to help for our community is that we'll get monthly reportings from the call centers on the types of calls that we receive, as well as if there's any missing services that our county may not have. I think it's going to be a good eye-opener for us if we need to focus some of our attention in different areas.
And one last question, Mr. Chair, how long does it take to implement?
So our goal right now is to go live October 1st. We have the application in. There's other things that we need to do with getting the cell phone companies in the area to allow us to connect 211 so that it's free, and our home phone carriers in the community. And then right now we're just finishing up working on our funding.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Supervisor De La Cruz?
Thank you. Maybe Supervisor Munzer can answer my question. Are you looking for funds, a partnership with the county? I mean, what dollar amounts here are we looking? Because all I hear is a great idea, and I want to hear what the cost is going to be.
I can probably answer that. So there are different avenues to receive income for this. Grants were an item that are brought up. I know that there's been AT&T, PG&E, local businesses are looking at assisting with the funding on this. Community Foundation, Hazel Hawkins Hospital are going to be participating. The City of Hollister as well is going to be partially funding this. So not everyone is going to, it's not a one-ticket item, $20,000 for one individual. It's going to be spread across all the local businesses as well as public agencies. So the county as well will be partaking. Health and Human Services, Behavior Health are offering to assist with the funding on that. So it's going to be multiple agencies, public as well as private sector individuals will be helping out with this.
And if I can, just to follow up on Supervisor De La Cruz's question, we are looking for partnership also. Health and Human Services is part of the steering committee.
Yes, and behavioral health.
And behavioral health, okay, and behavioral health. They're coming to the table, they're learning about it, they're learning how it can assist them to kind of, maybe they won't get so many calls that don't really need to go to them first, or it'll get calls to them that needs to go to them. So it is a collaboration.
And it's going to relieve the time of their staff also, because a lot of our agencies and our nonprofit organizations are called to refer services. They're kind of, I know American Red Cross said that they had 3 people call them last week to refer them to services. So now they'll be able to say, even if they walk in, call 211, because things are changing on a regular basis that our agencies can't keep up with it, where 211 can do that.
Yeah, that's going to be my next question is that we provide up-to-date information, and I mean, and Ray knows about, you know, when you're making a reference to technology upgrades, it becomes a little cumbersome to do that. You know, trust me, I support the idea. It's a good concept. I just want to make sure, you know, today's bad economic times where we have no dollars in general funds, is making sure where the funds are coming up. But I hear that there's agencies that are not general fund that will step up to the plate. Absolutely.
Yeah. And as far as the technology, the individual agencies that are going to be highlighted on 211, they will be able to update their programs
right
on almost a monthly basis if they want to do it, but it'll be up to them to do it.
Right,
So.
and if you don't mind me chiming in, for instance, Emmaus House, if they're full and they don't have any other spaces for women to come in, they can actually call the call center and tell them that they're full so that people aren't being referred to them. And they could call back and say that they have open beds. Now, they don't have to do that, but that is an option. Or if there's summer programs, for instance, through the REC or through our different nonprofits, they can update that to focus on those specific different operations.
Anything else, Supervisor De La Cruz?
No, it's good.
Supervisor Rivas?
I'm just happy that Supervisor Munzer has been working on this on behalf of the board and the county. This is, to me, is a great idea, great program. A couple years back, I participated in the Vision San Benito listening sessions, and one of the groups that I sat in on was for seniors. And one of the complaints and concerns was that, you know, we don't know how and what services are available to us. And I don't think most of us know all the services and needs that are out there, and this goes a long ways in at least bringing accessibility to folks that do have the need. And I think this solves a real big problem for our county as far as getting the word out on how we can help individuals that are in need of that. I know when the sheriff was elected, we had a little meeting, and him coming from Watsonville, Santa Cruz County, he said, geez, you know, that whether it's a passing in a family and our deputies arrive on scene, you know, the family's grieving, you know, they really don't have any knowledge of services that could help them. And suicide prevention, that was a great example, but that Supervisor Munzer outlined just now is, and the sheriff was concerned about how do we get the word out, because, you know, the deputies maybe carry a little card and say, well, call this number. Well, this solves it. This really goes a long ways. It's worth the investment, both public and private funds. So I'm very supportive of this. With that, I'll open it up to public comment? Seeing no public comment, we'll bring it back. And do we have an action recommended for this?
I think we just need to direct staff, Mr. Chair, so I would like to recommend that we direct staff to pursue this and figure out how we're going to partner and help finance it through our subvented, departments, so.
Fair enough. That's good enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think direction is adequate, and it seems that the whole board's supportive of this. Thank you very much for taking the time.
Thanks for having us.
Move on to item 30.
Yeah.
CEO Espinoza.
Yes, this particular item has been brought up on multiple occasions through intergovernmental committee, as well as brought to your board, discussing the renaming of Highway 25 to the Pinnacles National Park Highway. And Supervisor Munzer had requested to bring this particular item back to the board for further discussion. So with that in mind, I wanted to leave this up to Supervisor Munzer to discuss this further.
Supervisor Munzer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this has been a great idea. I think it got ahead of itself a little bit too much. And I guess I just want to slow the process down a little bit. I think after our last action, in which we just voted to support a resolution and then to send out mailings, it went out as we were actually voting on changing the name then and there, and it was a done deal. And the residents that live in my district along Highway 25, along Airline Highway, at first got, I think, the wrong information, and then when that got sorted out, they still were not thrilled with the idea. So in respect to them, I think we need to slow the process down and to look at, and again, the whole idea of this was to promote our newest national park. If this is not the best way to promote it, then we need to look at for other ways to do that, and also give our residents a chance to express their opinions about this action. And that's what I'm hoping to do today. Also, I'm requesting not to form a subcommittee, but just to ask permission from our chair that perhaps Margie and I can explore options on the promotion of the park.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Supervisor Barrios?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Most of that also is through my district, and I actually have only received one phone call with somebody that wasn't happy with changing the name. They like the name Bolsa Road. That's what they're familiar with. But I think Supervisor Munzer is right in that we just need to explore it a little bit more and see if we do have other options. But didn't COG already send a letter to our representatives to change it? Isn't a formal request already in place?
Yes, and I think Lisa is here to explain that, and also probably some options that may be available to us if we take the recommendation from Supervisor Munzer. And I know I've had a couple of phone calls as I have a portion of Airline Highway in my district as well as the Balsa. And on both ends I've had phone calls, and so I know on the surface it sounded like a great idea. The idea came from Supervisor De La Cruz, but not trying to throw him under the bus, of course. But I think slowing down the process and taking into account some of the concerns of the citizens that live along that 25 route, I think it would be very, very important at this point in time. Lisa, you want?
Yes, thank you. Lisa Reinheimer, San Benito Council of Governments. And Supervisor Barrios, yes, you are correct, and that COG sent a letter to Senator Cannella requesting that the legislature take action on renaming Bolsa and Airline Highway. It is just
to let you know in terms of process at the state level, it is going through the committees at the Senate, and at the community's direction, we can pull that legislation at any time. I would suggest that it go to COG next, because it originally came from COG for that request. That it go through COG next to retract the Senate concurrent resolution 35, which would rename it. And then, you know, if folks decide later on down the line that, you know, maybe it is a good idea and some of the fears and concerns of the residents are allayed, then we could reintroduce it at a later time, or not reintroduce it if it's still a concern. So that's my suggestion in terms of the state, on the state level.
Okay, Supervisor De La Cruz.
And I appreciate Supervisor Munzer's comments into the picture, and I think he probably right to, you know, push it back. You know, at least we tried. At least we tried to move forward to give more business to Pinnacles National Park, to, you know, give San Benito County or City Hollister some recognitions, you know, worldwide. And I did read a bunch of emails from a lot of individuals, and one of them that kind of really disturbed me was about, we don't need any more volunteers, any more tourists in Pinnacles. That just, you know, it just kind of hurt. But, you know, I understand. I do support the concept, and, you know, whatever direction we can go, let's move on it, and all I can say is we tried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you,
Right.
Supervisor
Well,
De La Cruz. Supervisor Rivas?
I guess I don't understand, and I'm frustrated. You know, I didn't get elected to walk on eggshells. You know, every decision we make, this is an idea, but every decision we make makes someone happy and makes someone unhappy. That's politics, that's policy making. Is this a perfect idea? Absolutely not. All the ideas that we deal with aren't perfect, but this is part of a solution. We could slow down the process to a very slow and inefficient pace, as our residents are used to. But this is part of the solution. Is a name change, is it common? Yes. It absolutely is common. This is a way. Is it a cure-all? And the consequences. Change the name, that's fine. But it's what we're trying to do as a community. This is a community that is strapped. We need to work together to try to solve our economic problems. We talk about tourism. We talk about our general plan about incorporating, you know, this wine overlay. We have a national park here, and this is one single way, a minute, tiny little way, to help improve and attract people here. And if we cannot get beyond this first step, I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know what any of us are doing here. But I did not get elected to walk on eggshells. I think this is a mistake, and I'm ready to move forward with any type of resolution to do anything to try to stimulate this economy. This is one step, and we're taking 10 steps backwards. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I appreciate Supervisor Rivas's concerns, and I think they're valid. But I think what we can do at this point, I don't want to see it pulled from legislation right now. I want it to move forward. I think what we need to do, and I think what Supervisor Munzer is wanting to do, is to meet with the folks that have concerns. And it's kind of an education process to let them know why we're moving forward with this and why we chose to go this way, how it can benefit San Benito County, and get the pros and cons from them, but at the same time promote, like Supervisor Rivas said, why we're pushing this. So I think that that's critical. So I don't know if Supervisor Munzer feels the same way that I do, but spending time with folks that have concerns would be the way to proceed.
Okay. Probably what we should do is open up public comment and then bring it back to the board for some additional comments. So I'm going to open it for public comment. Please come up, if you could bring a yellow card or for your name. Please come to the podium if you can. We'll take your time. No rush. No rush.
I'm Joe Spencer, and I live at 27,000 Airline Highway. And concerning the people that live on Airline Highway, when you change this, besides changing the name, it's a historic name for one thing, but everybody, all their driver's license, checking accounts, everything, business addresses, all have to be changed. This is it's a very inconvenience for a lot of people, where a sign at the entrance to Hollister, a sign on 101 Highway, it would give just the same thing as changing the name of a road that's been named after for years. So I can't see changing a name. Why not just publicize it in other ways?
Thank you very much. Anyone else from the public?
I'm Kathy Spencer, 27,000 Airline Highway, is that all respects to the supervisors, but you haven't a clue what's happening out there. Is first of all, we live right next to the Pinnacles. Some of the Pinnacles employees are my good friends. The name of the park did not change anything at the park. They still are dealing with a really low budget. They can't possibly serve what they had, and now it's worse. We have increased traffic, we have increased litter, we have increased trespassing, we have lost basically sheriff department down there, we have lost paramedics down there, ambulances take a long time. We really, when somebody says to you, we don't need any more tourism down there, we don't. We need increased services down there if we're going to have increased tourism. So please come down and visit on a Saturday and Sunday. We never used to have bumper-to-bumper cars going through our community. It never used to take us forever to move cattle across the road. And it's dangerous right now. We've never had the rice rockets like we have now. So things have really changed with the name change, and yet nothing's changed. It's only gotten worse. That's all.
May I ask
Thank
a
you.
question,
Yes,
this lady? So you're saying that since the name change, we have experienced more traffic because of the name change?
Well, I guess so. I think because the public, now it's shown up in the papers and everything, this is what I'm assuming. But there's a lot of traffic down there now.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
More so than we have experienced in the past,
Oh,
is
yes.
what you're
You
saying.
have one nice day, nice weekend down there, it's bumper-to-bumper traffic down there.
And you attribute that to the name change of
Well,
the park?
it coincided with the name change, and I think it's just the people are now reading about it in the San Jose papers or whatever. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Spencer.
Come on down and visit us on a nice sunny Saturday or a Sunday.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Marty Richmond, Hollister. I think when we were talking about making it a national park, and this is no reflection on the people who talked before, we said as soon as the word national park is associated with any location, you're going to see the traffic pick up enormously because national-wide people say, give me a map to the national parks. And that's what they grab, and they're going to look on there and say, oh, Pinnacle's National Park. As soon as it goes on the National Park Register, there are people who say, I've been to every national park. Oh, have you been to Pinnacles? No, but I'm going next week. So I think we knew that was going to happen. I certainly do believe the people affected should, well, first of all, my initial impression was it was a good idea to change the name. I think the people affected should get a lot of time to talk about it and express their issues with it. I think there's two different issues. One is the name, and we might be able to find a way to do that without changing the official address. We might find an overlay name, as I'll use that terminology without understanding really what it is. In other words, there are many highways you go to San Francisco, they have two names. They have the street name and then they have an overlay name. We've got a big sign up there and said, this is the Rose Express, whatever it's called. And you go down there and you follow the signs. So we could have that. We could know where the official address could remain Airline Highway as far as the business, the post office, where you live, everything, your license, everything. And there could be some other set of signs that says, this is the road to the so-and-so, as expressed. And that might be the best answer, both economically and do it. Now, the traffic issue is going to be an issue. And I'm a little disappointed, and I can't say I came up here and said we should do this or that, so I'm disappointed in my own looking forward and saying, well, if we ever win this battle and this winds up to be a national park, are we ready to do that? Well, maybe we're not. Maybe we didn't prepare well enough. But I can tell you this, if we do not get the tourist dollars, there will never be any medical help down there, and there will be no sheriff. That's just a fact of life, and that's through the chair I'm speaking to people in the audience. And that is because the population that lives there is not dense. It's don't take that the wrong way. It's rural, and when it's rural, the problem is they got to cover a lot of miles. Now, one way to get fire help down there and get police help down there and get emergency medical services, and I'll wrap up, is to make sure we get those tourist dollars and they are directed to going down there. But as far as the traffic problem is concerned, and I'll wrap up with this one item, we had better start looking at it right now. Not tomorrow, not next week, and not next month. Because if we're getting bumper-to-bumper traffic down there, we better start looking at it right away and see what we can do about it, talking to Steve Wittry about it. Thank you for letting me extend my time.
Okay, thank you, Marty. Any other comments from the public? Okay, I'll bring it back to the board. And, you know, one of the things I want to maybe, you know, express is that national parks do end up having more traffic. Last year I went through Yosemite Park going to some Bishop, I think, and I drove through Yosemite, and it was bumper-to-bumper traffic. I couldn't believe the cars. Now, can we improve Airline Highway to 4 lanes? I don't think that's realistic. It won't happen. It's a be a lot of traffic down there. When this idea first came up, initially I thought it was a very good idea, great idea. Might as well, you know, bring in tourism and people know what the road, where it goes, and I didn't give it as much thought as I probably should have. I'll admit to that, and I think the people that live along that road and the impacts on the ranchers and citizens down there, we should have taken more time and input from them as far as how it affects them. And as much as I would like to see more tourism and capitalize on that, I'm not willing to sell out San Benito County residents. I'm not willing to do that. I want to try to find ways that we coexist. The ranching families down there, citizens down there, are just as equally or more important in my book than that tourism dollar. And I think Supervisor Munzer has a good suggestion that let himself and Supervisor Barrios work on this for a little bit and see what is the most rational, prudent direction to go forward. But that's my take on it. I'm not walking on eggshells.
But, Mr. Chair, may I ask this? Do we move forward with slowing it down completely as a board and not support legislation going through?
Or do we just do, as Supervisor Munzer suggested, that we get together with the folks that are concerned about this?
Well, I honestly think that we need to, express to the senator that there is a controversy with a large number of citizens in our county. And Supervisor Munzer, I think maybe Supervisor Munzer could answer that better.
I just want to say that I'm not sure that it's a large number. I mean, I have received, and there's a lot of folks in my district. I have received one letter, and I believe was from the Spencer family, and an email and a phone call. But Supervisor Munzer, it has more effect on it than I do.
I wanted to ask Lisa a question, because Lisa, you indicated that if there was any opposition to this, I don't know if it's a bill or resolution in Sacramento, that would kill it.
Oh, does it?
So we don't want opposition. We want to resolve any issues here so that nothing gets up to Sacramento, because then Sacramento's going to just throw it out. And if we try to come back with anything in the future, it's going to hurt it. So I guess that's why I would, at this point, would support having it withdrawn from Sacramento so that they don't start hearing that there's mixed feelings about it down here in San Benito County.
Mr. Chair, if I could answer that question, yes. In terms of legislative policy, what they're looking at, whether it's the Senate or the Assembly side for highway name changes, is no local opposition. So I would suggest and I would advise that you ask COG to retract the legislation and table it for another time, because I don't think you really want to give Senator Cannella a can of worms that he has to deal with at the state level with local opposition. There's always next legislative cycle. He and actually Assembly Member Alejo were very interested in the legislation, so I don't think you have an issue with getting it back on next year if you want to. But at least this would give you the opportunity to meet with the constituents and talk with them and see if you can get broad consensus this year and go from there.
Any other comments from the board? Okay, so your suggestion is that COG should do some sort of retracking?
Yes. The COG had initially sent the letter requesting that Senator Cannella place legislation that would rename Bolsa an airline highway. Because it came from COG, I suggest that it also come from COG that we would retract that. As the Board of Supervisors, you could ask the COG then to retract that letter and table it for now.
The only thing that bothers me about working it through COG, I'm being chairman of COG, is that it's mostly impact on the county, and why can't just this board express it that way, and rather than wait another month and another month goes by and the senator's office is still working on it and everybody's still kind of going full speed ahead, when maybe that's not what we really want to be done. Why can't we just...
You could send it through the Board of Supervisors, and I don't think the senator would have a problem with that. I was just thinking in terms of the way the process had already gone, it's entirely up to you.
Supervisor Barrios?
I'm just concerned to do it that way because you have city representatives that are part of the intergovernmental where that started, and in fairness to the city, they were very excited about it. I know the mayor was, some of the council members, so I think it has to follow due process and not just be directed by the Board of Supervisors and just say, take it to COG and see, because they have they have a representative from San Juan, am I correct? And then City of Hollister. My only recommendation is to take it to COG and let COG decide if this is the appropriate way to proceed.
Supervisor Munzer?
I concur with Supervisor Barrios that it probably needs to go through through COG, and as far as the senator's office, I'm sure staff could inform his staff of kind of what's going on down here, so they slow up the process too in Sacramento until it gets resolved.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, the staff is informed about what's going on locally, and so I've been in communication with Senator Canella's staff. So they're just waiting on, the official word in terms of which direction to go.
Okay, any other comments?
At least we tried. All I can say, at least I tried, Mr. Chair.
Well, there could be further discussion at the COG level that...
And Mr. Chair, would it be possible to set a date for the new ideas that are going to be, that are going to come to the board? Since we're throwing this one out the window, can we get a date certain on when we're going to get new ideas by our board?
Okay. Yes,
our committee?
but it would have to probably be a recommendation from this board going to COG.
No, what I'm requesting is something entirely different. Supervisor Munzer has suggested that since, they're going to look for other ideas to, help the whole effort. So I want to set a date certain to when those ideas will be back before the board.
Okay.
Like I guess you say it'll be like a progress report.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I agree, because I thought I heard Supervisor Munzer, or you, Mr. Chair, that Supervisor Barrios and Supervisor Munzer were going to be in a committee and explore other options. I thought I heard that at the beginning of the discussion.
Okay, is that still your recommendation, Supervisor Munzer, as far as, maybe having an ad hoc committee to look into alternatives?
Yes.
Okay.
And then as far as coming back on report, 4 months, is that enough, soon enough?
I just want to make sure it doesn't fall through the cracks.
No,
I mean, what I'm asking for is a progress report to see, if ideas are being generated and see if we can move on those ideas.
And I totally agree with you.
And one more thing, Mr. Chair, is that Supervisor De La Cruz and I sit on the Intergovernmental Committee, so this has to be, and our CAO is there, we need to discuss it at that level as well, so to get ideas from them, and then I can present those to you.
All right.
And then we'll take it to Supervisor, our Chairman and I will take it to COG.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you could put that on there, our CAO can move forward with that.
Yeah, I hope maybe it's not quite as long as 4 months, but within July is a pretty busy time with budget, but perhaps
and that's
August.
that's what I was worried about. June we'll be busy with budget. July the city is going to be busy with their rally, and to get all the players together and discuss this may take a...
Can we do this by August?
We can do a progress report, Mr. Chair, because when is our next intergovernmental, Ray?
It's usually first
Thursday, first Thursday?
First Thursday, so it'd be 6th.
that would
I believe
be
it's the 6th.
June 6th.
Yeah, June 6th.
On June the 6th. Okay.
Okay.
We can discuss it then, if we can put it on the agenda.
Yeah.
So we can actually do a report in July of what came out of that part of the discussion.
Yeah.
Supervisor Munzer, do you think?
Oh, yeah, that's right, I'm sorry.
And then COG meets on June 20th.
Yeah, I think in our individual committees, we could make reports in July and maybe have a agendized item in August. Fair enough?
Perfect.
Yeah, and in the
Okay.
interim, Supervisor Munzer and I can try to plan something that we can maybe meet with constituents, get ideas from, we'll figure it out.
All right, that'd be
Thank you.
great. So that's what we'll do. The committees need to make reports in July during board announcements, and we'll agendize an item in the first week of August. First meeting in August. Okay. That's settled.
Let's move on.
Move on to, I guess we have item 32.
Item 32, yes, Mr. Chair, we have our last item for the regular agenda, and this will be given to us by Steve Wittry, our Public Works Director, and this is with reference to adopting the Mitigated Negative Declaration, Mitigation, Monitoring, and Reporting Program and related CEQA findings for the jail expansion project. So we have Steve Wittry here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. As you're aware, the AB 900 jail expansion project requires a CEQA review. In December of 2012, the board hired Rincon consultants to prepare the appropriate CEQA documents. The public review period was started and closed, and staff has advertised this board meeting as a public hearing. So staff is requesting that at some point we open the public hearing, take any public comments that may be received, and then close the public hearing. I also wanted to advise the board that we received an extremely late comment from the Department of California Fish and Wildlife Services late last week, a comment on our document concerning some species, red-legged frogs, and primarily tiger salamanders. We have not had a chance to fully vet those changes to the document. We are thinking it's not substantial in terms that we can do some pre-construction surveys to identify that. Staff hasn't had a chance to adjust the CEQA findings and monitoring mitigation to accommodate that letter at this hearing today. So to move the process forward, though, since the public hearing was advertised, we are asking that the board open the public hearing, take any comment, close the public hearing, and allow us to go through that hurdle, and then we can respond to the Fish and Game comments, Fish and Wildlife comments, and bring this back to the board at a future meeting for approval.
Mr. Vice Chair, is this a public hearing? I didn't think that it was.
It was advertised as one. It was advertised as one in the local papers. However, it wasn't posted that way in our agenda, but it was advertised to the public that way.
Okay, but because it isn't on our agenda, I have concern that we may be moving forward with a public hearing that people may not have, they may have just looked at this. So, Council, I'm a little uncomfortable with treating it as a public hearing, even though it was advertised.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that it wasn't put on the agenda correctly. I'm not really sure what to say. Conservatively, if the board wants to be conservative, then it should require that the public hearing be agendized as such on the agenda. What are the consequences of delay?
Essentially, the consequences of delay are delaying this step going through the process. We do have some time to get through this for our AB 900 grant. There's just lost time, lost effort, staff time, cost of re-advertising. So it's
we'd have to re-advertise the notice.
If the argument is that since it's not posted properly on the agenda, I would assume that we would have to advertise it again for something that's properly posted on the agenda.
What was the publication cost? What were the publication costs?
$50.
Yeah, it's not 50. It's probably closer to,
Couple hundred?
maybe 1,000. I don't know.
Huh?
Maybe 1,000. I don't know.
1,000?
Possibly, I don't
The
know.
publication costs are extremely expensive.
There is another potential consequence, and that is that the public review period and public comment period has formally ended, but because we have an outstanding public hearing, people are still able to comment and bring in additional comments. So if you extend the public hearing time, that's perfectly fine. But one consequence would be that it will further extend the opportunity for people to comment on the mitigated neg deck.
I didn't think that was automatic, Mr. Vice Chair. Council, I thought that once you close the response time, that unless we extend it, that it closes and it doesn't relate to the public hearing at all.
No, because a public hearing by its very nature is inviting people to provide comments and input.
I see. So it would be verbal, not written. I get it.
Yes,
Okay.
but people can submit written comments at public
Exactly.
hearings as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I can't support it, I'm sorry. It's not on the agenda. I can't support developing a public hearing process right now.
Okay. I have no problem with that. I feel the same way. I feel that it needed to be on the agenda that way. So what I think I will do, we can open it up to public comment at this time, correct? Without opening the public hearing?
Well, I'm not sure
If
that there's
anybody
anybody
wanted-
here to even comment on it. If
Well-
there isn't, then what I would just suggest is we just continue it to the next meeting that would allow us to republicize the public notice and agendize it correctly, which I'm not sure if that's June 4th or June 18th. I don't think we can meet the June 4th. I
It's the
think we've
same
already...
situation you had earlier in the meeting about
Yeah,
the deadline, so it's
So I
basically
think
June
we're
18th
talking June 18th.
or July 9th.
Well, that's up to Steve if he wants to recommend that we continue it to July 9th. I'm not sure what the timing sensitivities are.
One of the things that we are looking forward to doing in the first part of July is awarding a contract for the consultant services to begin construction documents for the project. If the timing were such that we didn't see any further comments or anything further happening at the July 9th meeting, and the public hearing was advertised for that meeting, and that the board should decide to go forward with the CEQA document later in that meeting, later on in the agenda, we could begin the construction process, so there really would not be we wouldn't really miss a step in that fashion if we went that way.
The chair is blaming me for this because he handed me the gravel, so I guess it's my fault.
For a minute and
Everything
things are
falls
messed
apart.
up.
So Steve, so you're saying that the July 9th is acceptable?
July 9th would be acceptable to the project as long as we can work that process, then we don't have to impact the budget hearings.
I would rather it be on that day, just because we have the budget hearings,
In
and
June.
it's going to be pretty, we're going to have a full plate during the month of June, so I would recommend it being at that time.
I will go ahead and make that recommendation then, Mr. Chair, that we, Mr. Chair, through the chair, that we change this and continue this item to, the date certain is
July 9th? I believe.
July 9th. And, Mr. Chair, are you aware why we're doing this? If you-
What's scary, it wasn't noticed correctly?
Well, it
is
was
what I-
noticed, it was put in the paper, advertised as a
Public hearing.
public
hearing.
hearing, but it wasn't on our agenda as a we didn't even know that we were having a public hearing.
Right, okay.
So in fairness to the public who may just have looked at this,
All right. And we are making all our milestones still with this project, because I know that, there are certain things that we have to kind of accomplish as to continue with the funding.
Yes, this is a major milestone to get out of the way, but we're not in any jeopardy of running afoul at the timing. But it's something that we certainly want to get out of the way and clear ourselves with this date. So we'd rather to get it done sooner rather than later. I think the July 9th date doesn't cause any concern in terms of scheduling for us, in terms of missing those milestones, but we certainly want to accomplish those milestones as quickly as possible.
Okay.
so should I make that recommendation in the form of a motion?
Yes.
Okay, that's my motion then, to continue it.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second, Mr. Chair.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none. So we have that squared away, and hopefully we get it agendized for the public hearing. County Council, for a closed session, want to report out?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The Board of Supervisors will now adjourn into closed session to discuss those items listed on today's agenda, items number 33 through 37. Agenda item number 33 has been pulled from today's agenda and will not be discussed today. Agenda item number 34 is to confer with legal counsel regarding existing litigation pursuant to subdivisions A and D1 of Section 54956.9 in the case of Verizon of California, Inc. versus the California State Board of Equalization et al., filed in Sacramento County Superior Court under cause number 34-2013-001-38191. Agenda item number 35 is to confer with legal counsel regarding existing litigation under subdivisions A and D1 of Section 54956.9 in the case of Purple Cross RX et al. Versus the County of San Benito, filed in the Superior Court of California with the County of San Benito under cause number CU-12-00060. Agenda item number 36 is to confer with the county's real property negotiators for the property known as the Palm Tag Ranch under APN 020-170-017 off of Cienega Road in Hollister, California. The Lantis-Ward property, APN number 020-170-045 and 020-280-052, located at 2100 Cienega Road in Hollister. And finally, the San Benito High School under APN 020-170-043, 059-020-01, and 059-020-003, located off of Nash Road in Hollister, California. The agency's negotiators are Steve Wittry, Public Works Administrator, Ray Espinozo, the interim CAO, Matthew Granger, County Counsel, and Shirley Murphy, Deputy County Counsel. The negotiating parties are represented by Ron Ross on behalf of the Palm Tag Ranch property owners, Dr. Stan Rose on behalf of the San Benito High School District, and David Lantis on behalf of the Lantis-Ward property owners. Under negotiation and the price and terms of payment, the authority for this closed session is found in California Government Code Section 54956.8. And finally, agenda item number 37 is to confer with the public is a public employee performance evaluation of the interim county administrative officer. The authority for this is Government Code Section 54957. I will also note that at 1 o'clock we have the final closed session scheduled, which is agenda item number 38, and that is for the public employee appointment or in recruitment for the county administrative officer. The authority for this is under California Government Code Section 54957, but it is my understanding that on agenda item number 38, we will not meet in closed session until 1 o'clock.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, may I recommend that we address all of these in closed session after lunch?
Yes, that's what I was do.
Oh, thank you.
And before we go to there, would the public would like to address the board on any of the closed session items?
Yes, actually, I filed for two closed session items. I'd like to make some comments on the Verizon matter. I think that's 34. On that matter, I took the time to read the entire filings from Verizon Incorporated at the Superior Court of Sacramento, and all the filings at the Board of Equalization, and all the and I noticed all over the internet all these closed sessions in 30 counties. We're all having closed sessions on the same item at Sacramento, and all I can say is, how did we get roped into this? Okay, I mean, when is the state of California going to change the litigation rules? So, you know, if Verizon wants to fight it out with the Board of Equalization, that they don't drag every county involved in the entire state into court as a defendant. Okay, that's number one. Now, on the second item, Purple RX and our relationship, I hope the board will find a way to ask the court, now that the California Supreme Court has basically ruled on this issue, maybe not word for word, but basically ruled on the issue, and now we have a legal background to work against and a precedent, I think they call it. I hope that we can find a way to convince the local court to move on this expeditiously, because it has been a long time coming. So those are my comments. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. The Board of Supervisors will adjourn for lunch and then come back at 1 o'clock for closed session and take the items then.